Hello. I am Dr. Jazz, and I am speaking to you from the United Kingdom. I'm in Bournemouth on the south coast. I like to pretend it's like living in California, but it's not at all. No, it's just the UK. Anyway, I am a astrophysicist. And actually, I'm a satellite systems engineer. I've had a lot of jobs. I do radio astronomy and space stuff here at Aim High. So, Aim High is the nature first, curiosity powered online school where our mission to make world class live learning accessible. Is to make world class live learning accessible for everyone. Messed up our slogan, that's not great. Anyway, today's lesson is called Can I Time Travel? So please take notes, ask questions as we go. Feel free to comment, interact whenever you'd like. There is no such thing as a stupid question. So feel free to just ask whatever you want, no matter how distracting it is. So please check your chat is working now by telling me when you would like to time travel to and why. Okay. Hello everyone. Hello. Okay. So we're just checking everyone's chat's working to if you want to type when you would like to travel back in time or forward in time to, and tell me why. And I will not accept just the dinosaurs as an answer. You need to give me one of these. You need to say tertiary, Cretaceous, I can't even say them, Cretaceous, Jurassic, Triassic, Permian, whatever. Dinosaurs is not an allowed answer unless you can give me a specific era. Anyway, when would you like to time travel to and why? So as we wait for a few people to trickle in, I'm going to leave this question up. I'm just going to tell you a cool fact. Flies, when you let me start again. Flies, when you swat them and they move out of the way really, really fast, we think that they're perceiving time much slower than we do. We think that they're like, oh, everything's super slow. That newspaper's going really slow. I can get out of the way. But what's actually happening is that the refresh rate between their brain and their optical nerves is much faster than ours, so it can see the position of the newspaper moving really, really slowly. So it's not actually experiencing time slower. What's happening is that it's just seeing things slower, so it means that faster things seem slower, so it can react faster. This is actually why dogs like watching TV, because the refresh rate on the TV is about the same as the dog, so the dog can see the TV flickering, whereas we can't. Anyway, I've got some cool responses in. So when would you time travel to and why? We've got to the time of the giant dragonflies, very cool, allowable dinosaur era answer. To meet Leonardo da Vinci, that's cool. Charles II in the oak tree? I'm not sure what that means. So penguins and Choc might have to explain that to me. 1950 to meet my grandparents. Oh, that's so lovely to meet your younger grandparents. Or 2100 to see if I have great grandchildren. That's lovely. Just far enough to get into the future to get lottery numbers. Cool, we're going to talk about that in a bit. And the future to see how people cope with climate change. Wow, straight in there with the climate change stuff. Love it. Okay, cool. So, who doesn't love a good time travel story? So we've already seen some cool answers there. I suppose I should answer that. I'm not sure. I think I'd like to go back to like the Celts, I don't know, and just live kind of outside, just building huts and, I don't know, nomadic lifestyle, cool stuff like that. Anyway, so who doesn't love a good time travel story? So in sci-fi we have loads. We've got Doctor Who and his TARDIS, Back to the Future 2, where Biff gets the Gray's Sports Almanac and becomes a billionaire, whatever, because he wins on all of the football games. So someone said winning the lottery in the chat. That's very similar. We've got Terminator, Donnie Darko, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, even with Hermione's Time Turner. And even light-hearted comedies like About Time. Time travel is a big thing in sci-fi. Someone said no medicine. I think that's probably to the period that I wanted to go back to. Yes, true. And I probably have arthritis. I've forgotten what it's called. Horrible. But oh well, I just want to see what it's like. I don't care. Anyway, in my opinion, the best Treehouse of Horror Simpsons episode is probably the one where Homer makes the the time machine out of the toaster, and he goes back in time and he accidentally squishes an insect, so maybe one of those giant dragonflies. He squishes one of them and then he goes back to the future and everything is different and weird, and eventually he just goes back in time to that same era with the baseball bat and just smashes up all the insects and goes back to the future, and everyone's pretty much the same except they have lizard tongues, and he's like, yeah, whatever, I can get used to this. Anyway, that episode of Simpsons, that short bit, it's only like, I don't know, not even 10 minutes long, that part of the Treehouse of Horror episode, explores something called the butterfly effect. So what Homer did was he changed something really, really small in the past and it had a big effect in the future. So that's one kind of consequence of travelling back in time that can affect the future. Cool. So, do any of you have a favourite time travel film, TV or book series? Just let me know what you think. If you have a favourite, it'd be nice to hear. And we can maybe think about what happens in them. Wow, Leonardo has gone straight in and said, I think on the ISS time travels faster than on Earth. Bear with that, we're going to explore that shortly. Awesome. Okay. Time travel kind of annoys me. Yep. You'll probably give up watching this halfway through because it's annoying. It is an annoying thing to get your head around. Okay, we've got Doctor Who and the Time Traveller's Wife. Well, I'm going to recommend one. My favourite film as a kid was Flight of the Navigator. I loved this film so much. Imagining that I could be whisked off on an alien spaceship and have an adventure, and there's this cute little alien guy who hangs out with you, and a really sassy robot in the boat in the alien spaceship, and just have a really fun time. I loved that film so much. But what I really like about that film is the fact that it explores something called time dilation. And it does it in a way that's pretty... Sorry about that. I didn't realise that you can't see what I'm writing. Okay, anyway. It explores something called time dilation. And it does it in a way that's actually pretty scientifically... well, kind of like pretty aligned with the theory. So what happens in Flight of the Navigator, young David is whisked away on his adventure for only 2.2 hours, I think it is, 2.2 hours. But when he comes home, he finds that 8 years have passed. So what David Freeman experiences can be explained by our all-time favourite genius. I don't want to use that word, but that's that's what he is, our all-time favourite. Sorry for the pun. Einstein. Okay. So, okie dokie. Right. Einstein had a theory called special relativity. And this special relativity explains how space and time are linked for objects that are moving at a consistent speed. Okay, so they're moving at a consistent speed in a straight line. So if an object approaches the speed of light, its mass becomes really large and it's unable to go faster than light travels. Okay, so this is another thing we need to think about. Nothing goes faster than the speed of light. And oh, I'll tell you what, we call that c in science. We like to give it just a little c because it's constant and it cannot be changed. That's why we call it c. So nothing can go faster than it. And Einstein said that the speed of light must be constant. And it must be constant in any frame of reference. And what that means is that it'll be the same speed whether you're standing still or orbiting the Earth or running a marathon, whatever, wherever you are, the speed of light is going to be constant. So at speeds greater than 90% of the speed of light, we have to redefine mass, length, and time. Okay, so I'm going to write those down. We've got mass, length, and time. So that means that when you're going really, really fast, and we call that traveling at a relative speed, then you're going to experience time slower than someone who's going much slower than you. So if I'm going fast, then time is, or time, I'm going to put feels slower. Okay, cool. We've got someone saying time dilation is the same as time travel as it is imagined in most sci-fi stories. So we'll get onto that. But yeah, so what happens here is that you're actually changing time by changing your speed, which might not be time travel unless you do a big loop and you end up coming back in the future. Let's just... brain's going to be fried after this. Anyway, okay. So that's special relativity. Do any of you know how fast the speed of light actually is? Any ideas? Weird question, I know. Not that you might be able to just guess, but I'm going to tell you how fast it is anyway. I just thought I would ask in case anyone knew. It's 3... Oh, I've done this wrong. I've got all my zeros. Oh, we've got 186 miles per second. Yep, that's right. So we've got, it's 300 with 8 zeros after it. Meters per second, which is the same as 300,000 kilometers per second. Yeah, cool. And 310 to the 8. Okay, we've got good science people here using standard form. I like it. So we can write that as 3 times 10 to the 8. Awesome. Okay, anyway, it's pretty fast, right? It's the fastest speed there is. Miles per second. So what this means is that the Earth's like, just to put in context, 306,378 kilometers wide. So if you ran around the Earth 47 times in 1 second, you'd be going at the speed of light. Okay. Oh, we've got a new person coming in, Oliver. Oliver. Hello. Welcome. We were just talking about the speed of light. Super. So here's a fun thing for you all to try at home. You can measure the speed of light in your house. So do this with parents or responsible people that are not gonna put anything metal or dangerous inside the microwave, B, eat all of the marshmallows that you need for this experiment, or C, just some other dangerous thing that you might do. I don't know. Be sensible. Anyway, right. What you will need are some marshmallows. Get the fat ones if you can and wedge them on a plate. And then the next thing you need to do is you need to take out the spinny dish inside your microwave. So get rid of that because that turns the food around so it cooks evenly. You don't want that. Then you'll need a ruler as well. These are your 3 things to measure the speed of light. what you do is you cram as many marshmallows as you can onto a plate and you pop it inside of your microwave. Put it there. Then you turn it on, cook it for a little while. Now you need to do some reading. You need to look at the back of your microwave and check what the output frequency is. We know it's a frequency because it has this unit afterwards, hertz. Okay, in fact it has an M after it, which is mega, so that means you just got to times that number by 1,000,000, and you get that. So the next thing you do is, once you've put your marshmallows in, taken out the spinny plate, you'll take them out and you'll notice that you get melted-y strips and then non-melted strips. There's another melted strip there and another melted strip there, and then you want to measure between the melted bits of your marshmallows. Okay, cool. So then we just need to do a little bit of simple maths to figure out the speed of light. Well, speed is distance times time. Frequency is like 1 over time. So the equation that we need is the speed of light is equal to the frequency of your microwave times by this length here, which we like to call the wavelength. I'm going to do a little W there to talk about the wavelength. So frequency times the wavelength. And that will give you the speed of light. So it's as simple as that. And you can work it out. So let's say I measured 12 centimetres to be my distance between my melted bits, my wavelength. And my microwave is 2,450 megahertz. So now I need to times that by 1,000,000. Clever people that did this earlier put it in this form. So that's just, you just add 6 zeros at the end of it. That's what that means. You times them together and then you get about the speed of light. Make sure that's in meters. Okie dokie. So it's pretty exciting. I'm thinking that I probably got this wavelength wrong actually. Hang on. Times 10 to the 6. No, that is right. Yeah, that is right. It is 12 centimetres. I remember doing this and it is 12. Cool. Okay, yeah. So then that'll give you around, I'm going to do it like this, meters per second. Cool. Awesome. Fancy that. How easy is that to measure the speed of light from your own home? Cool. Home experiments. That's what we like to do. Okie dokie. So the speed of light is important because nothing can go. Hang on, I'm getting completely lost. Anyway, so this concept that the speed of light is constant is very important. In Flight of the Navigator, which I said, it's a little bit wrong because David and Max actually travel faster than the speed of light. But the important thing that we learn from that film is that moving faster means that you experience time slower. Okay. And that's why when David goes back to Earth, he's been away for 2 hours and he comes back and it's been 8 years. So he's kind of technically time traveled. Okay. So I want you now to imagine that you are waiting for a bus and it's taking forever to come. I want you to tell me if you think the bus would come faster if you were waiting for it on the moon or on the Earth. So if you get a little bit confused by this, I just want you to think about what the difference is. What would you feel that's different if you were standing on the surface of the moon rather than the surface of the Earth? While you think about that, I've just been told it's buffering. So I'm hoping that you can see. Can you see my screen okay? My whiteboard. Okay. So if those of you are just joining on, what we've got is imagine you're waiting for a bus. Just tell me if it would come quicker or on the moon or on the Earth? Okay. Right. Okay, cool. My whiteboard is fine. That's super. Okie dokie. So we've got some answers coming in. Yeah, so there's less gravity on the moon. That's the first thing we need to think about. Okay. Less gravity. Okay. Right, cool. We've got would there, would time, yes, awesome. Would the bus come slower because it's on the moon, Islay has said. No, it's actually the other way around. So we experience something called gravitational time dilation in this case. Okay, so the Earth has more gravity, and that means that time goes slower, whereas less gravity means it goes faster. So if you were waiting for a bus, it'd be better to wait for the bus on the moon. Okay. So, what's happening is that if we think about gravity going this way, I've got my two clocks here. So this one is a little bit later in the day. So this one's later on because it's further away than the gravity. So this is less gravity. So time's gone faster. And then this is earlier and time's going slower. I'm going to write slower, and because it's closer to the surface, so there's more gravity. Okay. Super. Now, this concept is not as far out as you think, because this isn't just science fiction. Scientists and engineers have to correct for this special relativity and these gravitational effects in order to make GPS and other satellites work properly. So it might not matter over a few seconds, but satellites are up in the sky for years, and over a really long period of time, everything would eventually go out of sync and the Earth stations wouldn't be able to follow the satellites anymore. So this is something that we actually need to know about and need to use in order to get all of our satellites that are out there communicating with us to work. So there's our little satellite. So a satellite's going to feel less gravity. It's moving faster. So that means that time is going to be going a lot slower on the top of us on the satellite than it is on Earth. So that means that the satellite's clocks are going to be ticking faster. Hang on. Nope, ticking slower than the ones on Earth. So we have to correct for that. Okay. Yeah, so that's why time on the ISS travels quicker, Leonardo. That's an awesome statement. So what's happening on the ISS is that it's further out, it's experiencing less gravity, so time is going slower for it, and it's also moving around the Earth really, really fast, so time's going even slower, as we've already seen. So it gets this two-way effect of gravity and also special relativity. So the satellite and the people on the ISS are technically, depending how long they're up there for, going to come back younger than someone that's the same age as them on Earth. Okay. Woo! Anyway, we experience time like this in only one direction, forwards. So wanting to travel backwards in time it's kind of in our nature, right? We shouldn't feel like we want to regret things, but I'm sure a lot of us do. And I'm sure at some point or the other, we've all thought, oh, if only I could go back in time and change this one thing. So remember what I said about a fly seeing a different speed, but not feeling the perception of time. Just like it might not feel the way that we feel time passing. We can feel time passing. So this is something that was done on an experiment with bees, and I'm going to show you just a TikTok video because it explains it much better than I think I would be able to. That didn't work. I thought the sound didn't. Oh no, let's try it. Hang on. Sorry about that. I didn't think that would not work. Okay. Right. Anyway, wish I could go back in time and make that work. Anyway, I will explain it now. Right, what happened was that an experiment was done where some sugar water was put outside of a hive, and every time at 4 p.m. they would put the sugar water outside the hive, the bees would come out and taste the sugar water and then go back to the hive. And eventually they figured out to come out exactly 4 p.m. when the sugar water would be there. So they stopped taking the sugar water there, and the bees still came out at 4 p.m. Then they did this under the ground because they thought maybe it was the sun helping them figure out what time of the day it was. And they still came out at 4 p.m. Then they thought maybe it was the earth affecting them still coming out at 4 p.m. So they did the experiment in Paris and they came out at 4, and then they flew them to the States and they came out at 10 a.m. And that must mean that the bees were jet lagged and that they had perceived time. So that TikTok video with Tom Lum explains it much better than that. But it's just a really cool thing to think about, right? That bees perceive time. Even tiny little creatures are capable of perceiving time. So, like I said, we can only go forwards in time. Well, why is that? So we can't really, the way I like to think about it is that we can't have a negative speed. We can have a negative velocity, which tells us which direction we're going, but we can't slow ourselves down to the point of going backwards. That's how I like to make sense of it. Okay, so spookily, in particle physics, to make sure that certain laws weren't violated, two science guys, Ernest Stuckelberg and Richard Feynman, proposed that electrons and their opposite particle, which is just a positively charged electron, can move backwards in time. And they also stated that all electrons are the same electron. So this is definitely a topic for another day. But it's interesting to think that in order to make some laws of physics work, we have to change other laws, and we can have particles go back in time. This blows my mind. I'm just throwing that in because it was related to time travel. Anyway, who's seen this episode of The Simpsons? My head is starting to explode now. I'm using The Simpsons again because I think that The Simpsons probably explore a lot of science concepts better than most, if not any other television series. Yes, we've got Islay seen it. Yes, Suzanne hasn't seen it. I'm going to explain it. Don't worry. Okay, so in this episode of The Simpsons, Homer Simpson gets sucked into a super dense hole, a wormhole. And the model that they used in this episode is based on what they thought a wormhole would look like. So you can see all these grids. Basically, that's just to show the shape of space-time. When he gets sucked in, all of this kind of warps down into a hole. And that's a wormhole. So in this episode, he gets sucked into our universe and he's totally freaked out by us with our, like, you know, I don't know, human dimensions and our 5 fingers. And then he finds a cake shop and he just doesn't care anymore. Anyway, what a classic episode. And Stephen Hawking, who is in it, he did the voice recording as well. It's really cool. He's in that episode. So, the time travel bit, the going backwards in time. We've seen how we can go forwards in time following the rules that Einstein proposed that are correct and have been mostly proven experimentally. So now we need to think about going backwards in time. Has anyone heard about wormholes? Yes, the wormhole bit. This is the wormhole bit. I'm going to write the wormhole bit, the bit where my brain explodes. Has anyone heard of a wormhole before? Don't worry if you haven't. I don't know a massive amount about wormholes, so we will go through this together. We've got yes, 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 no, yes, yes. So fair few people know about wormholes. Okay, cool. So space is 4-dimensional. Right. Okay. Just want you to think about that. What do I mean by 4-dimensional? Well, we can go up, down, side to side, and around. And we can also feel time. So time is the 4th dimension. You've got your 3D that we live in, and then also time. And we've seen that gravity can affect time. So there was a question earlier that I didn't answer because I wanted to wait, about does gravity affect light and why it affects light? Well, a photon traveling through space has an element of time involved in it, and we've seen that gravity can affect time. So gravity can also bend light and move it, just like it can change time. So we saw earlier that if you're moving really, really fast, we got mass, length, and time get affected. So if you change the mass and it's really heavy, then that means that they're all interconnected. So light's going to get affected as well. Okay, cool. So imagine a sheet with different weights of balls on top of it. So you imagine it sinking down, just like in this picture here. Imagine that was something like a planet. Space-time might kind of warp around it there. So that's what our fabric of space-time is like. And in the universe, energy likes to be positive. So up here where we live on this bit, energy likes to be positive. In fact, down here, it also likes to be positive. So this is our energy. But there's an area of physics called quantum field theory that lets negative energy exist in certain cases. So this is something that Stephen Hawking thought would make it possible to stabilize a wormhole. So let's just go back to what a wormhole is. A wormhole is a rip or a big funnel forming in the fabric of space-time. And it links up to another bit of space-time. So in the throat, in order to explain this phenomenon of linking between two different places in space-time, we have to have a situation where negative energy is allowed. Okay. So when your boy Einstein was thinking up relativity, he was thinking about closed loops in space that would link two different points in space-time, wormholes, and Stephen Hawking's work carried that on and went more in depth. So in theory, if I've got two different bits of space-time linked together, then maybe if you go through a wormhole, you could go back in time and you could go to a different place in space. So this is where wormholes and time travel tie in, because they link different areas of space-time. So according to general relativity, which is Einstein's gravity and space side of relativity, it is impossible to use a wormhole to travel back further in time than when the wormhole was created. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay, so what that means is that if you had a wormhole that appeared in the 1950s and you didn't discover it until today, 2021, and you went through the wormhole, the earliest in time you could go back to is 1950 when that wormhole started to exist. Okay, so I think we need to look at some questions because there's a good chance I might not be able to answer some of these, but I will do my best. We've got comments saying, so simple an idea and yet so confusing. I could not put it better myself. All that's happening here is that there's a hole appearing and it's linking to another bit of space that's bent around. Okay, cool. We've got, is there experimental evidence, observational evidence of wormholes? No, it is a theory and there is not. If any of you find out that I've said something wrong as well, please write to Aim High and tell me if you discover some evidence or something you want to say. But no, there's no experimental evidence. Okay, and what else have we got? We've got, how can wormholes appear? They're probably gonna appear from, a lot of people think that maybe big events in astronomy might cause them. I'm not sure if there's a link between black holes and wormholes, because you would need something very dense in a really big gravitational field to maybe pull down to another bit of space-time. Or maybe, I'm not sure, maybe it only happens on really, really small scales. So maybe only particles can experience it. I encourage you to go away and read up on this. And maybe... Oh, we've got another good question. Maybe we can do a follow-up episode on talking about how they form. Okay, so we've got, would it ever be possible to survive going through a wormhole? If the wormhole's big enough, and if it is stable. So Homer clearly went through a stable wormhole. Stable just means that it's not just gonna disappear when you're halfway through it, or wibble around all over the place and throw you off into different, like an arm in, I don't know, the 1960s and a leg in the dinosaur Jurassic era. Who knows? Okay. If there's anything living that could go through, survive through a wormhole, I don't know the answers to any of these questions. I would say a tardigrade because they are invincible, probably. And how do you think travelling through a wormhole would feel like? Why don't you tell me? We've got being stretched. So I think in another Aim High lesson with Josh, one of our other teachers, he was talking about the end life of stars, and that when you get sucked into a black hole, you experience something called spaghettification, when you just kind of get really long and stringy. I imagine it probably feels something like that. Yeah, spaghettification, great. I don't know, how would you feel like it would feel like? And I wanted to ask you guys if you think you would feel travel sick if you travelled back in time. I think you'd feel travel sick. We've got extreme pins and needles. These are great. Okay, right. So I think I'm going to finish up here. And I just wanted to finish with this really nice picture of Stephen Hawking in the in like a 0G kind of flight. He was just very, very cool. And it's just a really nice picture, I thought. Okay, so to finish off, yes, it is the vomit comet, and I think he did a good job. Of probably, I don't know, does anyone know if he was sick on the vomit comet? Okay, and then we've got Benjamin Simmons saying, is there a movie you think showed a great example of what time travel might be like? Okay, I think so. I would say definitely watch Flight of the Navigator to get your head around time dilation and experiencing different times from different speeds. Not sure if Donnie Darko is an appropriate film to recommend because it's very, very dark. But there's something that gets stuck in a wormhole, and it acts as a catalyst for loads and loads of events because it appears in different periods of his life. So that's super interesting. And any other films I can think of. I don't think the Harry Potter example is good because it doesn't explore time paradoxes very well. Okay. Oh yeah, Interstellar. The depiction of the travelling through a black hole in Interstellar is also great. We're getting to great suggestions. His Dark Materials are also good. I don't think that's time travel though. That's more like interdimensional. So remember, if we go back, just frantically answering questions. If we go back and we look at this diagram here, what's happening, I would say, in His Dark Materials is that they're jumping between space, not time, but it is space-time, so the time bit staying the same, but the space bit is somewhere else. And someone's just straight up said time travel is not possible. Great. Does anyone else think that time travel is possible? I think that humans won't time travel. I think our perception of time will change if we ever start travelling through space because we'll be going at much faster speeds. And I think that some things can time travel, or perhaps we don't quite understand time properly because we experience it in this particular way. Okay, I'm gonna call it there before everyone's heads explode, and I hope that that was insightful and interesting and all the rest. Okay, cool. So here we go. Sorry everyone. I forgot to I forgot to turn on my mic. Okay, cool. So anyway, our next live next week is going to be what's it like to be a swan, which is much nicer than what's it like to time travel. Getting a lot less confusing. Okay, sorry. It's the first time using this new streaming software and I've mucked it up a little bit, but that's fine. We all learn, don't we? Okay, so next week on the 27th, we've got a guest, Sasha Dench, with Matthew Shibram, looking at what it's like to be a swan. You can sign up for this and check out more lessons on our calendar by heading to aimhigh.co/calendar. So here we go. And please tell your friends and family about our Nature First Curiosity Powered online school and our mission to make world-class live learning accessible to all. Actually, we have a few challenges at the moment. If you'd like the chance to win £100, get involved with our latest challenge. It's called the Future Dictionary Challenge. And the head of the Oxford English Dictionary is one of the judges. And the aim is to invent a new word. So if we go over to Aim High Challenges, you can have a go at that. Maybe you can invent a word for what it feels like to go through a wormhole. I think that's a really good idea. So go ahead and check that out. And also check out our climate course and also becoming an ambassador for us. as well. If you're a student under the age of 25 and you'd like to be actively involved, then check that out as well. So, thanks. I really enjoyed this too. I will see you guys at another space-based one, and I think perhaps one that's considerably less